the company in your private message. So I'm giving the details, and this is a Bombay-based company. I will have somebody in our team come back to you on this. Srikanji, welcome. You're looking at starting something in the healthcare industry, and you want to start in 4 to 6 months time. Great. So friends, one thing I want to also mention, while at Franchise India, we work with nearly 90% of the industry. And every company that we work with, have their structured rollout, what cities, what regions they want to perhaps maybe, roll out and penetrate and create a cluster. So when we give you options, we also take a full understanding of the potential in your region and the city. So like Srikanji, we work with many companies again in the healthcare, and healthcare again is very, very, large. And from pharmacy to I would say even hospitals, I would say there are opportunities which can come in this segment. So if I understand specifically what category in the healthcare and what investments you're looking at, we would be able to give you certain options. Ajayji, I see your hand raised, and I see some more hands being also raised as I speak. So I'll request all of you friends, whatever questions you have, please use the Q&A box, and I'll take as many questions as I can in the next half an hour of this webinar. And keep writing and make it interactive. It's more about you and how we can work. Ankit Agarwalji, very good morning and welcome. You want to start something in Kolkata? Great. I think you're very, very specific about the timeline of 6 months. And you're looking at something in the F&B space, cloud kitchen. And when you mentioned Kolkata, we work with one of the biggest players there, and they have both, they do delivery and a cloud kitchen from their same kitchens. And you have an area requirement. You already have a space about 900 square feet. And I would say this is very apt for the brand I'm talking about. And maybe I can share the information through my Kolkata teams. We are based out of Salt Lake. They would be more than happy to perhaps meet you in person. And you already are into family business for the 12 odd years. Great. And you've launched a new brand of Leatherwood, which is a 4-year-old company. Wonderful, Ankitji. Great to know you. And Srikanji, you're looking at something in the supply chain in healthcare. Wonderful. So guys, keep writing in. I'll see, whatever questions I can take. And, I'll take you through a small presentation. So any questions, friends, that you have when I complete, or even as I take you through how to assess, I'll be more than happy to take that. And I will also put our details and I'll request Harshika if she can put our hotline number, our email ID to reach out, and I will also put a number where anybody who wants to write to me can also reach out. It's 8800493185 is the WhatsApp. Comes to me directly. You can email me at csonia@franchiseindia.in. I'll be more than happy to even connect with you offline. Great. So Harshika, can I request you to please put the presentation on the screen? And so while Harshika does that, friends, I'll give you a little understanding and why this assessment is very, very important. Now today, as a franchise catalyst, we play a very big role as a company with our number of years in the industry, and equally advising number of investors, I would say, in their entrepreneurship journey. So a franchise consultant like us, we carry huge responsibility in helping a potential business buyer like you in making a right and informed decision of buying a business. So when I say right and informed decision of buying a business, it means that we equip, our investors, educate them on what opportunities are right, while the decision making finally only rests solely with you. Right? So while we can give you all the information, but we don't kind of endorse any opportunity and say this is great and you go ahead. So all that is something that we do. And adding on to that, I'll also say, while it is difficult to bring absolute accuracy in the perfect fitment, choice of brand kya hona chahiye, financial expectations are very different, commercial terms are very different brand to brand. But we very carefully, follow a process or a methodology which can help us bring the best possible match for you. And as a consultant, we also take a very holistic approach on the return on the investment, how the industry is growing, performance of that particular opportunity brand, maybe in the last couple of years. Fourth, we also work in understanding and giving insights on predictable cash flows. What are the margins in that industry, in that business? And most importantly, I would say we put a big emphasis on, helping on risk reduction. Because, this is one investment, and anytime, we have got to somebody to seek advice, the only biggest fear we have in our mind is of not faring well or failing in that opportunity, right? So we carry a big risk of investment. And that's where our teams bring a lot of information so that we can help you to reduce that risk in the investment. Now, this is again, a combination of a lot of things, which includes your initial capex planning, how much investment goes in. It includes even your operational expenses forecast. How do you do that? Third is your working capital that we bring you complete information on. Fourth is competition, which is the competition present in the market. And equally important are also, I would say, legal terms and exit terms in the agreement, because these are very important to be captured, understood, right? And I have seen in my own tenure of more than 20 odd years now. So while people understand the brand, they like each other, they understand the basic investment, royalty terms, but a lot of other terms in the agreement, sometimes, the both parties don't see eye to eye on, and because of which many agreements or many relationships, don't move ahead. So we take a complete, cognizance of that and work with our franchisees or prospective investors on all these elements. So we take a very research-based approach, and we bring a very non-biased approach, because sometimes it might look like we work with many companies, but it's a completely non-biased approach, and we never base our recommendation maybe on a personal preference or with a specific company. The other thing which I want to say, now as a mentor, it is important for any business buyer to get all the information, because maybe advisor brings in a lot of alignment of interest between the stakeholders, bring in a lot of industry expertise, experience, statistics, which can help you determine an opportunity. And equally, like I mentioned, it might be challenging for anybody to decide out of these maybe 200, 1,000 options, what is right for me. And that's where we align the interest. And more importantly, I would say, as a business buyer, you don't need just information, right? You need more insights, which comes with a lot of personalized solutions. That's where we play a big role. So I'll start with this presentation, friends, and just to give you, a little understanding on franchising also. Shika, if we can go on the subsequent slides, the fitments. So if I talk about the next, please. So if I talk about, franchising, friends, franchising is a very, very big impact market. And I'm sure all of you would agree, appreciate, and acknowledge today. It touches everything that we are consuming every day in our lives, right? So franchising cuts across every industry. And we also have seen successful companies operating across all segments. And if you look at the opportunity in terms of system sales alone, this is almost about $4.5 trillion industry globally, which is much bigger than the Indian GDP. So you can understand the magnitude of the industry. And India happens to be the second largest market for franchising. And there has been a very big growth we have seen in the last, predominantly, I would say the last, 10 odd years. And today, this is almost about, 120 billion market in the country, which is growing at about, 40% year on year. And even with the last, I would say 2 years, which the world saw, franchising only grew in these years, because even in, I would say, crisis critical time, people look at franchising as a safety net of owning and starting, something. The other phenomena, when I talk about franchising, and this is something which I get asked a lot of times from investors, I've never done a business in my life. So do you think this is something I could do? And today you'll be surprised to know there is more than, 50% and maybe larger community today, which are first time business buyers. Right? So they're coming into the business for the very first time. And this perhaps is also the beauty of the business of franchising, which does not require you to come with some experience on business. And I'm sure all of you who might not come from a business background, and as a part of our growing up years, business was something which is very, very remote to us. We were all conditioning our mind to maybe take a job, which was best, conscious effort, we would make, and maybe starting a business was left to a certain set of community to do. But with franchising coming in, this has become very, very inclusive. And today, this industry, even for the Indian GDP today, contributes almost about 2%. And we see, because this industry is getting more and more organized today, if you look at what we're consuming today, brand consciousness has become very, very big, right? And everyone understands you're just a commodity if you're not a brand. And as we see, the business is becoming organized, the share of franchising will only grow, in the years and the days to come. So, friends, we've created a very holistic approach. How do you select, a particular industry or a brand, and how do we go about it? And this is something that has come as a part of our own experience of working with a lot of investors and, brands on one side, on the other side. So these are 4 assessment tools, friends, which we advise everybody to consider before they want to start a business, which starts with, your own self-assessment. Second is the industry that you want to select. And that's again a question which we get more often. What is the sunrise industry? What do you think is right for us? Third is the market that you want to open the business in. Fourth is the peer. Peer is the competition assessment. If you have chosen a brand, which is the other competition which is present. And lastly is the assessment of the brand that you have selected. So next slide, please. So under these 5 assessment tools, we have created a 25-point checklist, which makes, our job and your job even more easy. Even if you're exploring something, it becomes easy for you to even tick mark and say, what do I have to actually evaluate under these, 5 assessment tools? So we have created a 25-point, checklist. Can we go to the next slide, please? So these 25-point, checklist, is something which, if you have a score of say 20 under these 25 points, then the opportunity that you have selected is great. So if you score anything between 15 to 20, then the opportunity is again decent enough. But if your overall score is less than 15, then we do not advise you to maybe, select that opportunity. Maybe go back and, rework. Harshika, can I request you to please go on the next slide? And I'll brief you, friends, on these all these 25 points. So you can see on the extreme left, we have created a point structure. So from excellent, good to not advisable. And this is something, which is very, very intrusive. And I'll start with maybe, the self-assessment, which I've always, assumed is the most important aspect for anybody before you want to start anything. You have to start assessing, what entrepreneurship means to you. And when I say self-assessment, you need to understand your life goals and business goals. It is a phase where you have to discover yourself, find out, what you're really cut out for, and that's where the journey begins. Now, this further goes on to understand what my financial goals are, right? So when I say financial goals, unless I know what I want to achieve in my life, I will never be able to align my business goals along with it. Now, when it comes to business and also maybe the goals that we want to achieve in life, we have to align that with the financial goals that we want to achieve. So when I say financial goals, typically there are 3 things, which you should take into consideration. And I call that as TRR. And when I say TRR, T stands for timeline, R stands for risk, and the other R stands for return. So timeline means the timeline to achieve the financial goal. You can have a midterm, a long term, or maybe, I would say a short term financial goal. And maybe not all opportunities would give you, that kind of a return, right? So, or maybe a timeline in which you want to. Some of you might want to even diversify your investments or put in different asset classes. So first and foremost, timeline for you to achieve financial goal is something which is paramount, very important. Second is the return that you're expecting, right? So what return did you expect from the investment? And today I was speaking to one investor, intelligent guy. He said, I understand, if I look at small investment, because sometimes, I get to hear a lot of investors who say, I want something which is very, very, high on returns. I don't want to take any kind of risk on the business. And this is the money I want to earn. But they would have no, homework done on what businesses can give you, what kind of returns one. And the return can be given, based on the industry that you're in, based on the opportunity that you are actually, putting your investments in. So which is a big homework, which I would advise everybody to do before even, jumping the gun and deciding ki mere ko ye return chahiye or ye mere ko investment karna hai. So timeline, like I said, is the first thing. Second is what return I expect on the business. And third is what risk I'm willing to take. Now, all these 3 are actually interrelated. So like I mentioned, if you as an investor want to invest in any asset class, and different asset classes are categorized fundamentally into 3 goals, right? So when I say, if I want to make an investment, my first thought would be, I want my investments to be very safe, right? I don't want to take risk. Second thought could be, I want to have some income generated out of the investment I do, which can be nominal, moderate income, which I can generate. Third is a mindset of growth, right? I want to have maybe a high growth return on the investment I do. Now, similarly, when I say safety as my goal, I'm also telling that I'm looking at something which is not risky, right? So any business that you look at, safety would come with a low risk, but equally, I would say low returns. Something which comes with a moderate risk will also have moderate returns coming in. A growth-centric business would come with higher risk and higher returns. That is the only equation, that can happen. There is no other equation, and I'll tell you, give an example. I don't know how many of you actually are very consistent in following opportunities. 3 days back, I happened to see a big ad in Economic Times, and this was a half-page ad given by a company. And frankly, I don't know how many people have already applied for that particular opportunity, but it looked like a complete scam, right? So it said, just invest 1 lakh rupees and start earning 50,000 rupees every month. In my own experience of more than 2 decades now, I have never come across an opportunity where you can invest 1 lakh rupees and start earning 50,000 rupees. But a lot of I would say gullible investors sometimes fall prey to advertisements like these. So I would really request you to be extremely wary when you make that investment, and as much as information that you want to seek, our teams are more than happy to even extend that information across. And sometime back, I even happened to speak to somebody and they said, I invested in a KFC franchisee, but it was a fluke, and there was a company that even created the website of the company and took the money online, but the poor investor had no clue the company did not sub-franchise. So sometimes we don't go all out, we don't do our due diligence. So that's very, very important part of our business process, and our teams actually guide you on every stage of the process. The third thing, which is very important, is the capital that you want to invest in the business. And we advise people, investors, not to leverage too much and maybe invest to an extent where you don't have to raise too much of capital or maybe take a soft loan, maybe, so minimum investment that you should have to run a business you want to put money is minimum of 50% that you should consider. Third is the time involvement, and time involvement, I would say, is one of the most important criteria when we talk about franchising as a business, because franchising is an active business. It is not a passive investment, which I make maybe in a stock or a property, which I would say, give its return over a period of time. But it's a business which requires your time, and especially most of the business opportunities, which I say are under 50, 60 lakhs, are opportunities which require more of time and less of anything else, right? So time involvement is something which all the companies who are into franchising would look at from a partner. Having said that, the number of hours can be different based on the category, industry, or maybe the I would say the stage of the business that you are in, and that absolutely is something which is very, very subjective. And lastly is your fallback plan, which means that you should have maybe, your risk kind of distributed. And because any business takes time to reach an optimum level, 6 months, 7 months, and maybe, the first cycle, the first full year. So at any given point in time, I would say if you're doing something, you have a business, don't shut that down. Always have a fallback plan to go back to. Second is the industry assessment. And this is something which is very important because we need to understand the critical factors that help us to determine, a company's success within the industry. How overall industry is attractive, which can include things like how big the opportunity is in the very first place. Kitni badi opportunity hai, how many buyers are there? Kitni badi demand hai uski? Is it already overcrowded? Do we have many players doing the same thing? Is it a business which is already commoditized, right? And when a business is commoditized, then obviously your earning is not so much, or margins are not so great. Or you think it is a business where I, as an investor, can have the first mover advantage. I was speaking to somebody today, and this gentleman was looking at something, and apparently he was from a city where I said I have a great opportunity because it was something related to the current business he was doing. And I said, this company is looking at entering your market. So you might have a first mover advantage where you can even take maybe the entire city rights. So maybe an opportunity can be seen like that. Second, which I would say is very important is, we need to understand what is the prospect of that opportunity. Sometimes we look at very short-term horizon. When we look at any investment, and especially when we talk about business, our thinking, requirement should be for a minimum horizon of 4 to 5 years, and we have to look at opportunities which would remain relevant in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So today, when I say I want to open a preschool or a K-12 school, I need to ask myself, are children going to go to school in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? If I'm looking at an opportunity, do you think people are going to consume that product in the manner they're doing in the next 10 or 15 years? So if the answer is yes, that the opportunity, that industry or the category is good to go. Never look at the next 6 months, 8 months, 10 months. Always look at, the future fitness of that opportunity. Third is the demand and supply, which is very, very important. And there could be a case where we already have existing companies, brands, maybe fulfilling that demand, right? So it does not mean that if the demand is being fulfilled, I don't have an opportunity of bringing that particular opportunity or a brand in that market. There could also be a gap. Now, this gap can be in the level of service. It could be in the level of pricing. It could be in the level of solution, or the product itself is something which can be differentiator. So understand that. And lastly, is the innovation. Always look at companies which are, always innovating, companies which are relevant to the end consumer. Only these companies are companies which are going to be future fit. How many organizations or brands, perhaps, you would come and say these companies are running for nearly 90 years and today also they're relevant. I'm sure you will not have many names or brands to come to your mind, very few of them, right? So that's very important for sustainability of the business. Third is your market assessment. Every market is unique, different. You need to understand first and foremost what stage is that particular business in. So startup stage pe hai, growth stage pe hai. Are they already started to create clusters? They have become big in one market, going in another market. So that understanding is very, very important when you look at your own market for that particular brand. And similarly, maybe the stage of that industry also, kitni badi hai, for example, ed tech or maybe electric vehicle. So all these are very important when you consider your market for that particular industry or for that particular brand, and followed by even, I would say, regulations, because regulations, drug license, liquor license, electric vehicle, all these are both state subject and center subject. So it is important what your state guidelines talk about these industries. You must be able to understand, interpret what that means for you. And then is the real estate, which is very important because real estate is one important criteria for maybe a success or a failure of a business. One rule that we give advice to our investors is always look at the locations where your immediate competition is present. And from these locations, maybe your competition is present maybe in 6 markets in your city. And out of these 6 maybe locations in the city, understand which are the 2 or 3 locations where they're doing their top performance. So the locations which are doing the top performance are definitely a good bet, and your probability of success of that particular venture in that location would be much higher than choosing any other location. Right. And then we come to competition assessment, which is again very important. We never advise anyone to look at just one opportunity and go blindly investing in that opportunity, but also look at which is the competition which is present maybe at the national level, regional level, and maybe the closest 2 or 3 companies that you feel are very close to what I'm looking at. Understand their offering, understand if there's a competitive edge I have. It could be, again, I said, product. Is there a solution which they're bringing in? Is there a price advantage which I have? Is there technology advantage which I have? So all that is something which you have to understand. And equally, I would say the penetration and performance of the company. And these two are 2 different aspects. So when I say penetration, maybe the brand has a great penetration, but not all the outlets might be performing well, right? So understand the penetration and performance equally when we look at competition. And the offering, which I did talk about, a while back. And lastly is the assessment of the company itself. So finally, after doing all that, if you've narrowed down on a brand, what is that you must really also consider before you actually sign on the dotted line? So which includes a lot of things which we have put here, which includes maybe the people who are behind, the founders, maybe their past performance of the company, how they have standardized their manuals to make it I would say more efficient for a franchise partner to run and operate. So margins, when I say margins would be apple to apple. Never compare margins, apple to orange, right? So even in the same industry, I would say different categories would have different margin structure. So all this is important when you look at a brand. But 2 or 3 tips, which I want to give everybody when you look at and you want to maybe qualify a company as a partner, you want to go ahead. First and foremost, understand and maybe discuss with the company. And if this is a company which is already running their own centers, or I would say even their franchise centers, understand if they have, operating a multi-unit franchisee. So many companies I work with very closely, and some of them are old in the industry. Some of them have recently started franchising. Many of them, there's a brand which we would be launching very soon, and they have never been into franchising, but they've already started to speak, and there are many people who have already committed to take certain number of units in a location. So if a company has a single partner operating multiple locations, it also gives you a heads up on, I would say, credibility, the support structure of the company. Second, even ask the franchisor if they have been running, what is the average success rate of a franchisee in their system. If my average tenure with a company is say 5 years, how many of them actually complete that tenure and renew further? So while if there's a mild attrition, say, or maybe uh, attrition of say 25 odd percent, which is very great. That's decent enough. That's natural. But if it is beyond say 30, 40, or maybe say 50% of people are actually moving out before even completing the term, so that's a red flag for you when you look at these companies. So while there are many other things that we can also advise as you go by. So basically, this is what we wanted to maybe cover, and I will advise whether you do it yourself or you take our advice. We are more than happy to work along with you on all these five odd areas. Next slide, please. Sure, can we go on the next slide? So what we have done, friends, we at Franchise India follow a very tried and tested process, which I talked about, starting from the information stage, going till the time that you sign up, where we work with you to understand and assess the opportunities which are right for you based on your own profile, which is your SOMF fit that you see on the screen, your maybe the job that you're doing, your profession, your past experience, maybe the property that you own. Second is how much time that you put in the business. Third is, the market that you are in, what opportunities are relevant in that market, and followed by what investment you want to put. So these are four considerations that we do when we advise you on the opportunity. And we follow that by maybe a tri-party meetings, a visit or a tour. And the most time that we spend in structuring of a deal, which is very, very important, right? So we help you structure a deal, which takes the most important part, of our deal making process, which is followed by maybe a letter of intent and an agreement sign up. So all these stages are something where our teams work very, very closely with our prospective investors. Next slide. So when you become a partner with Franchise India, so what you get as an investor is, a couple of things which I'll like to maybe talk about. Actually, can we go to the next slide, please? And which includes, certain number of hours that we commit on structuring of a deal, which is about 2 hours minimum that we work with you to structure a deal, 10 odd discovery days that we do and commit. So out of all the opportunities that we share with you, minimum 10 discovery days that we do for the brand that you have selected. And we also work with you in, structuring of or vetting of the agreements with the company. We also work with you in selection of the industry. We spend at least 1 hour in industry selection. We also spend 1 hour with you in, getting the right opportunities for the market. So market fitment. So all the 5 assessment tools that I've talked about, our teams put substantial number of hours in these. Can we go to the next slide? So this is, 10 points which I talked about, including, your invitation to the knowledge sessions that we do, evaluation of the industry, your own self-assessment, and also deal structuring. Anybody, friends, I'm sure, because this might be a time-taking process, anybody who wants to even come and explore, if you've not decided even to maybe, become a partner with us and register with us for the services. So if you're even, exploring, you're more than welcome to come and maybe block these 30 minutes with us, our advisors who are present in 90 cities, to brainstorm, what is right for you. So all this is something that we do for you. Now, what it takes to become a registered investor or a investor advantage with us is, a two, offering as a company that we offer, where you can work with us for a period of 6 months. So if you know that you have decided or you want to decide and start the business in a span of 6 months, there's a membership fee of 25,000. If you want to extend that and say, I'm looking at multiple opportunities, I want maybe longer term, then we look at a 40,000, kind of a registration fee. Now, this fee ensures that, we are speaking and communicating with somebody who understands and appreciates and respects our time. And equally, it also bounds us as advisors to, work with you and commit our, time structure to work with you for that particular time of duration. And after the deal has been concluded, there's a a small brokerage that we charge, but that is something that we do only after the conclusion of the deal. But for all the process in between, our teams work very closely with you. So, friends, I'll request all of you, we have shared our details. Anybody who wants to reach out to us can please do that. We have our teams across India. Whosoever is looking at any information may please do that. And I'll quickly read out Pallav ji, welcome you from Roorkee. You're looking at something in the F&B space on a small format with 150 to 200 square feet. And Pallav, we have some opportunities that we can discuss with you. These are small kiosk cafes that can be opened up. And for the category that you are mentioning, student, there's a big which has a big captive audience. We have certain opportunities that we can discuss with you offline. Srikanji, I am putting the number again. It's 88004931. I've put you a reply. I hope. Great. So I see some options and I acknowledge everybody writing to us. Rajatji, welcome. You're looking at something in Pune in the F&B segment or in the supply. Somebody's and one of you is looking for also something in the pet shop or a pet store in Pune again. So we have a lot of companies that are available in every segment. My request would be, it will be difficult for us to take every single and explain that one-to-one. We are more than happy to do that offline with all of you. And before I close, friends, I'll also say we have a webinar which is happening in the next 15 odd minutes, starting sharp at 12 o'clock. There's a company called Boogie Woogie. This is a preschool chain from South, and they're currently looking at expanding in a certain territory. I'll request Harshika, if you have maybe a link to the webinar, we can put that in the chat box for our friends to perhaps click and get registered with. So friends, just wait for a moment. Let us get an access to the link, and we'll put that in the webinar link in the chat box. And these are the sessions, friends, that we do every day, 12 o'clock noon. Anybody who wants to perhaps participate, please do let us know. We're more than happy to. So you can see in the chat box, there's a link that we have shared. I'll request all of you, if you want to copy this link so that you can register. It just takes about a minute to do that. And these are webinars that we bring every 12 o'clock to our investors. And if you want to even visit, we have a YouTube channel of Franchise India where our webinars, all recordings are available, and also the Facebook page of Franchise India Brands, where you have more than 1,000 companies, leadership team, founders who have come and presented the business model. So friends, thank you for being with us, and I wish you all a very great day ahead. Thank you.